The Watcher in the Shadows. The flickering streetlight cast an eerie glow upon Maplewood Street. Jamie and her friends, Sarah and Kyle, huddled together beneath the gnarled branches of the oak tree at the end of the road. It was Halloween night, and their school had organized a spooky treasure hunt that led them here, to the most haunted spot in their small town. Legend had it that the Rake, a tall, hairless creature with long fingers and hollow eyes, roamed this area, preying on kids who dared to wander too close. "Come on, guys, it's just a story," Jamie said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "There's no such thing as the Rake." "Sure, but I don't want to find out the hard way," Kyle replied nervously, glancing over his shoulder as shadows danced in the wind. "What if we find the treasure?" Sarah chimed in, eager for an adventure. "We could be the first kids to touch it." With a collective shiver, they agreed to press on, forcing courage into their hearts. Armed with flashlights and a map that promised hidden clues leading to the ultimate treasure, they ventured deeper into the woods that bordered the old cemetery. As the wind howled through the trees, Jamie tried to dismiss her unease. They laughed at the rustling leaves, pretended to scare each other, and recited ghost stories that had become local folklore. The deeper they went, though, the more the laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence that blanketed the surrounding darkness. "Okay. According to the map, the first clue should be right around here," Sarah said, squinting at the paper. Her flashlight beam danced over a crooked stone tombstone half buried in the earth. This could be it. Suddenly, a chilling gust of wind swept through the clearing, making them shiver. Out of nowhere, a low growl echoed from the darkness, sending a jolt of fear racing through their veins. "What was that?" Kyle whispered, his voice barely audible. "Probably just the wind," Jamie replied, her heart pounding in her chest. But the unease festered in the air, soaking into their skin. They huddled closer, the glow of their flashlights merging into a single beam that barely penetrated the shadows. Just when Jamie thought about turning back, she caught movement in the corner of her eye. "Did you see that?" she gasped, her breath hitching. "What?" Sarah asked, eyes wide and scanning the night. I don't know. Something moved over there." Jamie pointed into the thick brush, where darkness clung like a shroud. Kyle stepped forward, curiosity piqued. "Let's check it out." "Are you out of your mind?" Sarah exclaimed, grabbing his arm. But Kyle shrugged her off. "Come on, it's probably just an animal." Jamie hesitated but followed Kyle into the shadows. As they edged closer, the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. The air became thick with the scent of damp earth and something foul. Then, in a flash of moonlight, they saw it. A figure crouched low to the ground, its elongated limbs contorting unnaturally. Its pale skin glimmered and reflected the light like a ghostly specter. As it turned its head, eyeless sockets stared back at them, a hollow void that seemed to seep darkness into their souls. "It's the Rake," Jamie shrieked, stumbling backward. His face pale, Kyle turned to run, but it was too late. The Rake moved with impossible speed, darting toward them like a malevolent shadow. Jamie grabbed Sarah's hand, and they sprinted, fear propelling them through the trees. They didn't stop running, weaving through the branches until they reached the boundary of the cemetery. The ground was uneven beneath them, and Jamie wiped the sweat from her brow as they emerged from the woods into the graveyard, their breath ragged with panic. "Hurry," Sarah gasped, glancing back, but the Rake was not far behind, its long, clawed hands reaching out just inches away. With a burst of adrenaline, Jamie yanked open the creaky gate that separated the cemetery from the street, and they slipped through just as the Rake lunged. It let out a banshee-like wail that echoed off the tombstones as Jamie slammed the gate shut, pain and panic consuming her as she turned to see the creature's shadow darting away into the trees. The friends stood there, chests heaving, faces ghostly pale, staring at the darkness where the Rake had vanished. We survived," Kyle said slowly, tremors lacing his voice. But Jamie knew they weren't out of danger yet. They would never feel safe again. The Rake would be back, lurking in the shadows, watching. And now it knew their names. As they fled down Maplewood Street, minds racing, they didn't notice the dark figure watching from the treetops above, ready to make them its next prey when the shadows fell again. The night was far from over, and the Rake had only just begun his hunt.